Martin Ziskovic, former national champion farmer. Would you introduce yourself?
Hello, Martin Schifkowitz, Director of Austro-German, two-time national champion farmer. Thank you for having me today.
Beautiful. And I probably should have said two-time welcome too, because you have in fact impacted this sector quite a bit. So ladies and gentlemen, the reason we're having this conversation today is that there has been growing concern over what is it that we're doing, that is from the JCF's perspective and from MICAF, to stem this scourge of Praedial larceny across the island. And I'm glad that we're going to be having comments from Jasmine Holness. I haven't seen you in a while, Jasmine, from Cattle Breeders Association. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, in the boardroom here at MICAF, we have a support team from MICAF. We're going to be taking notes, and at the end, I'm just going to share with you some of the action items that we are going to be looking at. So to get us kick-started then, it's a great honor and privilege to welcome Honorable J.C. Hutchinson, who is going to be our first presenter. I don't want to be the one to tell the Honorable Minister you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. It's very difficult dealing with agriculture, especially this aspect of it in 10 minutes. But convener and moderator, editor of the agriculturist newspaper, Patrick Maitland, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the strategic operations, Clifford Blake, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Bishop Dr. Gary Welsh, Chief Executive Officer, RADA, Peter Thompson, President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Leonard Fulton, and former champion, two-time champion, Martin Zitkowicz. I hope I got it right. Other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure this afternoon to join you in this virtual town hall meeting put on by the ministry in conjunction with the editor of the agriculturist newspaper, Patrick Maitland, and the Jamaica Constabulary Force. As we are aware, Praedial larceny is widely acknowledged locally and regionally as a crime that is a disincentive to agricultural production. I can assure you that the Ministry of MICAF is dedicated to stamping it out through a five-pronged policy approach. It includes public education, management of the traceability systems, legislative amendments, capacity building, and the development of a sound multi-sectorial approach that targets the roots of the crime. Let me start first with capacity building. In the 2019-2020 financial year, the ministry conducted 6 training sessions with over 200 police officers. The number included 22 senior officers in charge of operations across all 19 police divisions. Among them were 2 assistant commissioners of police, 14 deputy superintendents of police, and assistant superintendent of police. It also included a total of 179 rank and file members from 4 police divisions in St. Elizabeth, St. Catherine North, Clarendon, and Trelawney, which are the parishes with the highest reported incidence of Praedial larceny. The officers were trained in how to effectively investigate Praedial larceny cases and prepare case files. Let me take this opportunity to express sincere gratitude to the JCF for placing increased focus on Praedial larceny in the various police divisions, especially with the provision of 6 motor vehicles to bolster anti-Praedial larceny enforcement efforts. We are also appreciative of the support from the High Command, which has provided stewardship at the level of Assistant Commissioner of Police, Bishop Dr. Gary Welch. It is the first time I think we are getting such importance in this area, and I want to congratulate and thank everybody for the support. I want to assure you of the ministry's continued support as you help to rid communities of thieves that prey on the livelihood of farmers. The ministry will continue to facilitate the additional training of members of the JCF in this new financial year. We do not intend to stop here, but will be pursuing steps to engage the judiciary in a similar manner to strengthen their capacity to combat Praedial larceny. We'll also seek to continually sensitize members of the public on how they can participate in the process of risk reduction and farm theft reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, let me encourage more farmers and other stakeholders in agriculture to come forward and make reports to the police. It is the only way we will fight back against the criminal. We are all fighting the same enemy. Data suggests that 45% of Praedial larceny incidents go unreported. A farmer's first course of action following the theft of their produce or livestock must be to report the matter to the police. Last year, in our ongoing sensitization of at least 300 farmers in the parishes of St. Mary, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas, we emphasize the importance of coming forward to report these crimes. And I just want to say that for us to be making a bigger impact in this area, we need to have groups formed at the community level. And these groups are JAS, which is one of the long-standing groups in this country, production and marketing organizations, which are organizations under RADA. And these groups are very important in helping to fight Praedial larceny. And with that, I'm going to be suggesting that the police have what we call police youth groups in various areas throughout the island. And I am now suggesting that we have the Praedial larceny unit getting involved in these JS and PMO organizations and have what I call a police farmers organization in various areas, where you would then be supervising these JS, PMO organizations, be involved where the farmers will actually see you in person, be part and parcel of the engagement of the problems that they have at this level. And they will have confidence in reporting to you when they can have that interaction with you. So I'm actually putting that forward to see how that interaction can boost the confidence of the farmers out there. Let me now turn attention to the ministry's efforts with the judiciary for the 2021 financial year. The ministry will be seeking to revisit a proposal for the scheduling of dedicated days for the hearing of Praedial larceny cases. The intention here is to increase the rate of conviction in such matters. For the legislative review, the revision of the Agricultural Produce Act is also on the agenda for this financial year and has been completed. Recommendations have been made and are now advanced for submission to the cabinet. Among the changes being proposed in the new legislation are: one, to expand the definitions of agricultural produce to include agriculture, aquaculture. Number two, an increase in the types of crops such as castor bean, bamboo, hemp, and mushroom. Three, increase in the fines of up to $3 million and the term of imprisonment of up to 1 year. Four, changes to the existing agricultural produce receipt to improve traceability systems and to add telephone numbers of the farmer and their taxpayer registration number. These are two other areas we want to have put onto the receipt. Number five, invoices to be used in consignment arrangements between farmers and purchasers of agricultural produce. Six, inspection of custodians, purveyors, and end users of agricultural produce. We also see the value in not only increasing fines and penalties, but to add a restitution clause so that farmers can recoup losses directly from the convicted criminals. Farmers are sometimes disheartened that they are left to seek their own remedy for losses suffered after honoring their obligation to the state in the prosecution of their case. As far as the technology is concerned, we continue to push for more use of technology in agriculture. The ministry will be working with RADA to have its agricultural business information system, the ABIS system software application installed on phones utilized by JCF division team. This is aimed at targeting persons transporting agricultural produce to ensure its legitimacy. Let me reiterate that this ministry intends to eradicate Praedial larceny so that agriculture, which is the mainstay of our economy, can grow from strength to strength. We are also seeking to purchase 15 drones to assist in the Praedial larceny program, in conjunction with assisting in other areas of crop production under RADA. Consideration is also being given for the purchase of trail bikes to get to some of the remote areas of this country. We hope to be employing roughly 800 agricultural aides to assist the extension officers in their extension activities, and by extension, also help with Praedial larceny when necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind everyone of the overall objective of the National Praedial larceny Prevention Program, which is ensuring that Jamaica farmers will reap what they grow. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. Quite a mouthful for us to reflect on. Thank you for sharing that with us. And later on, we're going to just reflect on some of the action items that come out of your beautiful presentation. Thanks again. We move on then to our second presenter, and that's Mr. Lenworth Fulton, and he's the president of JAS. And Mr. Fulton, we want to take the opportunity to welcome you and to invite you to make your presentation. You have 5 minutes.
Please unmute your mic, Mr. Fulton.
I think the mics work better when we unmute.
Thank you for inviting me to this, and let me thank you all for being a part of the fight against Praedial larceny. Let me first say I endorse everything that Minister has said, and that It's a culmination of the work that we all have been doing. As president of the JS, I have joined a long list of presidents, certainly tracing back from Courtney Fletcher, that have made Praedial Larceny a major plank of the Jamaica Agricultural Society effort to work with farmers and to protect them against Praedial Larceny. All our presidents have had meeting with the Commissioner of Police, including myself, who have met with him a couple of months ago, and he have assured a subcommittee of the JS board that he is on board and he is going to do everything in his power to ensure that he beef up the unit that is responsible to fight Praedial Larceny. However, we think that there are some simple things that we must do to help to fight Praedial Larceny. For example, we are an eater of curry goat. We love curry goat. We have restaurants that cook curry goat every day. Where do they get the goat from? Is it possible that within the unit of the constabulary force that they could say to everybody who is cooking curry goat and using any meat, pig, beef, whatever, take a photocopy with your phone of that stamp on that meat. Let us see the public health inspector who stamped it, that we can trace back and trace where it comes from and look into the database if those who are selling you goat raise goat. There are some simple things that I'm putting on the table.
Amen.
There are some simple things that you go and see people standing over a heap of pine looking like a mountain. Do they grow pine? Do they have MD2 pine? What kind of pine they grow? Let's trace back that to the RADA extension officer. Do you know this person of growing MD2 pine, growing the other type of pine, so that we can give the police something to investigate? Police can't work in secret. They must get information. We must now able to strategize and look on the routes that transportation is taking farm produce to various markets and stop them and ask the market truck, where are the receipts? So these are some of the strategies that we must start to employ, and this will drive fear and will get people to conform. Now, when you look on the sale of the receipt book in JAS, it is very sluggish. Either that they are not conforming to using the receipt book, or one farmer is using their receipt book for everybody, or they are using other types of receipt book that are not traceable. So therefore, this is another area that we need to look on. With respect to groups, I support Minister Hutchinson 100%. We cannot fight anything in agriculture individually. It has been the groups from the days of the land authority, where you have the various groups on the various commodity boards. The groups were the magic in moving agriculture forward by disseminating information, gathering information, getting farmers together in farmers meeting, and so on. And to what Minister Hutchinson suggests, that the police be a part of these groups, it would have a double-edged sword. We will be able to fight crime too, because you will be close to the community and able to pick up information and help to fight that monster. So the Jamaica Agricultural Society has always been a part of the Praedial Larceny fight. We are still here. I'm still happy that we are recognized in the group that is fighting Praedial Larceny. And as a president, I'll use every effort to continue to support this fight. The figure of the amount of things that we are losing is not very precise. There have been a figure of $5 billion that was probably picked out of a hat. We probably need to do a survey and could probably ask RADA with a bigger team to do a survey, properly written survey by the unit up there at MICOP to do the survey and ask the RADA officers to conduct the survey and to have a baseline in a more scientific fashion to know what are the things they are stealing and the value, and to know what the pressure and what serious financial predicament this scourge has put on our farmers. I will stop there and thank you.
What's going on with this?
Unmute, please.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. We appreciate your comments, and I could see your experience coming out, and also how you spoke intimately of what it is that the police are doing. We have taken note of your recommendations, and we appreciate your endorsement of the efforts at the end of that of the JAS. Once again, thank you. We move then to our next speaker, Mr. Peter Thompson, and he's the Executive Director of RADA, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say within the next 5 minutes. Mr. Thompson.
Sore point in Jamaica's agriculture. And I concur with what the minister had said about Praedial Larceny. And I think we need to take a more proactive approach in addressing the issue. It is a cultural problem, and it resides within the community, and the community persons know who the culprits are. And part of us out there working in the field is to disseminate information in relation to education about Praedial Larceny. You have heard Minister spoke about, the issue of traceability. When the crops are being sprayed, when the animals are being treated with antibiotics and other form of medication, and they are stolen. And I want to also indicate that from an animal perspective, there are culprits within the Ministry of Health who presume to be using their stamps to stamp meats that have been stolen. And this was made known to us at a point in time when DSP Francis, when he was the head of the Praedial Larceny unit, made mention of that. Well, I want to tell you, though, that from a RADA perspective, we are playing our part in terms of addressing the issue of Praedial Larceny. We have been having a series of workshops with the police. We have met with Sergeant Bruce Williams on several occasions. We are out there in the field meeting with the RADA officers and sensitizing them about, programs that we are pursuing to address the matter. One of the things that we have done in RADA is to enhance our ABIS system by developing 3 applications that we are going to be testing shortly to address Praedial Larceny. We have worked with the unit to develop what is called a Praedial Larceny app, in which case the information in ABIS will be uploaded to gadgets that the police will be using out there on the road. And instead of calling the office to verify whatever information that he or she would have received from those traders, then he or she could easily input the information into the gadget and get information in relation to where the origin of these produce. We are working assiduously to update our farmer registry to ensure that the information that are on the system is current. Because when the police stop somebody, for it to be, for you to prosecute, the information has to be current. So we are working to get the currency of the information up. We are also developing an app. Well, we have advanced on this app, in which case the farmer can check his information that was given to the extension officer and to indicate to the officer whether or not the information that was inputted is correct, so that it can maintain the currency of the data and the information on the system. So we are working with that. We are enhancing our drone department. The minister had alluded to that. $30 million has been allocated to strengthen our drone capability in RADA. And part of it, we are going to be doing some pilot testing to ensure that it can be utilized for the issue of Praedial larceny. We are still working on the logistics as to how this will affect whatever change that we are trying to pursue. And of course, among other things, we will be able to utilize the drone to provide more accurate information on the farming communities in terms of production and of course, the distribution of farm inputs. So we have been doing a lot of work with the police, and the pilot testing is to be done shortly. And we hope that after the pilot testing, if it is successful, then we are going to roll it out. And we are going to ensure that all the farmers groups across Jamaica are sensitized. And of course, the extension officers will be fully on board with this. They will learn how the technology works. And we will continue to partner with the police to ensure that we can stem this vagary that has been plaguing the agriculture sector for many years. And of course, myself and Mr. Fulton will be having discussion as to how we roll out this and how the farmers can benefit in the long run. So that's a little piece in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Much, Mr. Peter Thompson, for sharing with us. And in that presentation, you said a number of critical things, which we have taken note of. And in summary, we will mention those. I have the opportunity of recognizing a participant from Barbados. I didn't catch the name and title, but for those who have joined us after the welcome and acknowledgements were given, let me take the opportunity to just acknowledge your presence and participation in this conversation having to do with anti-Praedial larceny initiatives in Jamaica. We have heard so far from the Honorable Minister, we have heard from Mr. Fulton, Mr. Peter Thompson, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce our next presenter. He's from South St. Elizabeth. I assume that based on where he's from, he knows something about farming. He's Mr. Clifford Blake, a veteran in the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and we want to welcome Deputy Commissioner Clifford Blake, who heads up the Strategic Operations portfolio. Welcome, Deputy Commissioner Blake, and you might want to start off, sir, by telling us when is the best time to plant onions. Deputy Commissioner Blake.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ACP Welch. Well, we have had a bad year this year. The drought has given us some challenges with our onion crops, but we are trying to survive. Hopefully, I've seen the weather pattern has changed over the past 24 hours, and we're hoping for some rain.
We hope so.
Let me get to the business of policing and the Praedial larceny, the whole question of Praedial larceny. First, I want to thank you and MICAF, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries for inviting me to present at today's virtual forum. I must, before I go any further, Honorable Minister, I must commend ACP Welsh, who is the JCF appointed liaison officer, for the passion with which he takes his job. He, along with Sergeant Bruce Williams, they have taken their positions so seriously that each time I see them come to my office, I wonder what else they are coming with. And I must also recognize the contribution of your predecessor. Well, I don't want to say predecessor, the officer who headed the unit before them, Deputy Superintendent Kevin Francis. He was an officer who had a passion for Praedial larceny and the fight against Praedial larceny. And I must say that Assistant Commissioner Welch and Sergeant Bruce Williams have brought no less energy to the position. And for me, it has given me some confidence. And I think for Jamaica and the whole agriculture industry, that too must be some level of confidence. These officers take their job seriously. But I must say in 2015, the Jamaica Constabulary Force created the anti-Praedial larceny initiatives. This strengthened the partnership between the JCF and the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Technology, Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, MICAF, in a unified effort to reduce incidents of Praedial larceny. The Praedial larceny unit is a component of a strategic operations portfolio and within the remit of the operations officer within the 19 geographic divisions of Jamaica. In 2018, a decision was taken at a strategic level to decentralize the anti-Praedial larceny activities to each parish. This was executed through a series of training in collaboration with MICAF, which included the judiciary, farmers, and other agencies of government. And Minister, I remember I was having a 2-day workshop at the Mediterranean Hall Hotel, where we created some pamphlets and some workbooks that were distributed to all the persons who attended. We had police officers from right across each division in Jamaica, and that was, I think that was a very successful session. And today we do utilize those training programs to enhance our officers. And our intention is to work with MICAF to develop more of those training programs. We have begun a schedule of resourcing each geographic division, each parish in Jamaica, with personnel, vehicles, and other assets in support of the program within division. To date, I must say, Minister, you said 6, but I can correct you if I may be so bold as to correct the Honorable Minister to say that it's not 6, but 7 of our 19 geographic divisions have been given a vehicle and a dedicated team of persons to focus on our fight and our commitment to Praedial larceny. And at this point, I must say that a lot of our officers, in their effort to treat with murders and other violent crimes, sometimes they tend to push Praedial larceny to the background and they do not give it the priority that it deserves. But having been in the service for 34 years, I have seen the correlation between violence and Praedial larceny. I have seen, I mean, off the top of my head, I remember a pig farmer who was murdered in Lake Spen. I also remember in St. Catherine, down at Bushy Park, another farmer who was murdered when farmers were trying to steal his cattle and he went out. It has happened several times in Clarendon where farmers were murdered in defense of their animals. You have criminals, armed gang criminals, who who were actually stealing cattle, and when the farmers responded or went out there, they were murdered. So we can no longer treat Praedial larceny as persons merely stealing an orange or a bunch of banana. It has become an organized crime. It supports organized criminal activities. And this is a level we want to elevate the response of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and our crime fighting activities. We do not want to dedicate only a unit to each division. I want to get every member of a JCF to be involved in the whole fight against Praedial larceny. Bishop, Dr. Welch, I see the returns of the Praedial larceny report from January to the 31st of May. I won't even repeat them because I know they are not true. They might be true in terms of the number of persons who have reported the crime, because the figure is showing that between the 1st of January up to the 31st of May, only 22 cases of Praedial larceny has been reported throughout Jamaica. Whilst the figures at the police station may be true, off the top of my head, I can tell you in St. Elizabeth, where I'm from, I could name you 22 cases since the beginning of the year. And this is one of our challenges we have. We need to make sure that our farmers have the confidence that they can report each incident, because that is the only way we are going to realize the magnitude of the problem that we are having. And that is the only way we are going to be able to respond to the need of our farmers. As I was speaking to the members of our Praedial larceny unit, our newly appointed officers, and I was indicating to them that we need to treat the investigation of Praedial larceny and the larceny of cattle with the kind of investigation that we do other crimes. For example, in investigating the larceny of cattle and the slaughter of cattle, I was indicating to them that we need to collect samples for DNA. We need to collect soil samples and send it to our forensic lab, because we need to collect hair samples from animals, because these are the kinds of forensic, in the absence of eyewitnesses, these are the kind of forensic evidence that can connect thieves to the exhibits and the animals and the agriculture, the crops that they have stolen. So we need to elevate our investigative capability. And Dr. Welch, I must say that I'm happy with the insight that you have and the vision. The vision for the unit and the training that you have lined up. This is where we want to go. We need to go into technology, utilizing telephone system, drones, forensics. That's in terms of DNA, soil samples, and those things collected. Going to the abattoirs and collecting. Use of the receipt book, traceability. This is where we need to go. And it's not only about the Praedial larceny unit, but getting every officer to be so alert and to be involved in the fight against agriculture. So as I join this afternoon meeting again, I want to reiterate the minister spoke about having met with the Commissioner of Police, and I must say the fact that 7 vehicles have been dedicated to parish, and as we get more vehicles, the intention is to ensure that each parish and each division has at least a vehicle and a unit that is dedicated to serving the agricultural industry. But I must say, we want to move it further. We need to get every police officer involved, because that is the only way we are going to impact the fight against Praedial larceny. And in closing, I must say also that I'm aware that animals that are stolen, we have evidence that sometimes they are shipped to Haiti and other countries where they are traded for guns. So not only is Praedial larceny and the larceny of cattle a local crime, but it has become a transnational crime where criminal gangs and organizations are actually using it to trade for guns and drugs. And from that perspective, I say we need, from the JCF, we need to elevate our investigative capability and our crime fighting capability to be more focused on this industry. And my final word, I am totally committed to the fight against. By birth, by DNA, by nature, by practice, Bishop, I'm a farmer at heart, and you know it. And I must declare my hands openly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Blake. We sense the passion with which you spoke. And thank you so much for the endorsement. For those of you who are listening in, the Jamaica Constabulary Force has 19 geographic divisions. And whilst we won't take you through a PhD dissertation on that, a division is basically a parish. So when you think about St. Elizabeth and St. Mary and Portland and so forth, those are divisions. When you get into Kingston and St. Andrew, it gets a little more complicated because like in Kingston, we have 3, and in St. Andrew, we have another 4 in Kingston. Kingston West, Kingston Central, Kingston East, and so forth. Deputy Commissioner Blake and myself had a little discussion about the allocation of vehicles, and I said to him, I particularly want to prioritize Kingston West, where the Coronation Market is, and we had a discussion of whether or not we should prioritize that over St. Elizabeth, and we agreed that most of the stolen items head to the Coronation Market, and Sergeant Bruce Williams has an interest. If I were to follow him, he would want to go and intercept all the market trucks coming down there. So we'll start that probably as of next week to do that. Thank you so much, DCP Blake, and particularly for the recommendation, and I'm taking it as an instruction, sir, to elevate the investigation of these cases with the whole DNA and soil sampling and so forth. I might have to go back to school to learn a bit about that, but Dr. Omer Thomas has some experience in that field, and I'm going to be his student. We'll come back to you for some other comments, DCP Blake, but allow me to go on to someone I admire. I have seen him in several of the meetings that I have participated in, the Anti-Praedial Larceny Committee. Well, this girl, Corona, has separated us, so we haven't met in a little while. Martin Ziskovich, a 2-time national champion farmer for Jamaica. And we look forward to hearing from you. You have 5 minutes in which to share. Please help me welcome Martin.
Okay, hello and welcome again to everybody, and thank you for having me. I just wanted to say we missed the meeting too, but agriculture, first of all, to every one of you guys, we need to make it exciting, right? Agriculture is the future for our country. Agriculture is feeding our nation right now during this Corona crisis, and we need young people to get into agriculture. Now, for the last 15 years, 16 years, when I came to Jamaica as a chef, I was working in the hotel industry, and then 3 years down the road after that, I decided that I wanted to start supply the hotels, and because there was no consistent supply. So I realized quick that the hotels or the markets need consistent supply. But the only way how we can grow our agricultural sector here in Jamaica long term is when the partnership between the hotels, the restaurants, the supermarkets is actually effective. So in Austria, where I originally come from, you have mandatory army service where everybody has to join the army, including me. As I comment the work from the police force, and they're doing a fantastic job, it is impossible for anybody, for any police force, any army, even if you guys give us 70 vehicles and 100 drones to patrol the whole island, it is impossible that we're going to catch with those things the thieves. So for us from the agricultural sector, to me as a farmer experiencing, the only way or one of the most effective ways to stop Praedial larceny is to educate the consumer, the partners who is buying from the farmers, and say, listen, it has to stop, that it's only for whoever sells the cheapest produce or the cheapest goat meat. It needs to be the question where the goods are coming from, right? Which brings me to the next point, which we have been speaking over and over and over about it. We need agricultural insurance. Now, if we're looking into the future and want to get right now, when we're hearing this discussion so far, you know, when a young person joins this discussion right now, he thinks, oh my God, forensic crime, people dying. Why would I be motivated of starting to be a farmer, right? So we need to give all the background, all the instruments, all the tools for a young person to start farming. And one of them, to give at least a backup, would be agricultural insurance. And for me, my passion when I won the first time the national champion farmer, the amount of young farmers have reached out to us, and I'm very passionate about it. I will not stop until our governments or whoever is able to join together, World Bank, you name it, until we have an agricultural insurance available for every farmer in Jamaica, who also covers farm theft, who covers fire, who covers you name it, in order for us to go forward. Then the next thing is now the Minister of Health need to be a part of this discussion, because we can have all the best police, we can have everybody there. If the Minister of Health saying we just continue to have a closed eye on those situations where people selling on the roadside, they produce, not washing their hands, not just cutting up, you don't know where things happening. You know, we have been speaking for that for the last years to go and something. I see Mr. Trevor Bernard here right now for the animal thing. You know, 70% of the Jamaican goat meat consumed in Jamaica is being imported, right? And that shows that the opportunity for our sector to grow is unbelievable. But who is going to put in goats if today you have 20 and down the road you have only one left? Right? So the police can only assist, and the partnerships, DCP Blake and Bishop Welch, is fantastic. We are working together, but we have to really start to pressure the consumers, to pressure the end consumers and say, listen, it's not about only who have the cheapest price. It's not the backdoor deal goat meat what we're going to buy. It's not RADA. It's not JIS. It is not the minister. It is everybody's responsibility. The same way how we tell everybody right now to wash their hands and keep a mask on. It's everybody's responsibility to not just buy from any third party their produce, their meat, you name it, their mangoes. Mango season is in full speed. Mr. Patrick Maitland was saying he loves Jamaican mangoes. Right now we have mango farmers already bawling because people jumping on the mango tree before the mango even ripe. So in closing this, we need to make agriculture exciting. We are well aware of the situation. I'm really thanking the police and the minister to working together, but we need to move to the next step and say, listen, these things we need to implement. And I mean, you can see it right now. Agriculture is actually saving our Jamaica right now, because we are feeding the country while nobody importing anything of fresh produce or animals. So we need to move forward with that. And thank you again for having me today.
Thank you, Martin. You went through that as a rehearsed script. That was good of you. I could see you speaking with a passion. And congratulations again on your being champion farmer twice. I think
Mr. Welch, sorry to say, you see, like when we're speaking about something what we love, same like how we speak about woman or anything, whatever you love, you don't need a script for it, you know? So therefore we can always speak free about it, because see, my paper is empty there right now, because we love what we do and we can move forward for anything. You know, we don't need no drones for that, but I'm telling you, if the passion is there, we can move forward.
Thank you, Martin. I could see your Austrian culture coming out. In Jamaica, if you're talking to a bishop, you don't say, we talk about women. You know, that could put the bishop in a compromising position, but that's okay. I understand, Martin, and we, now that I know you, oh, they've muted you. Okay.
I was saying, sorry, Bishop. Pope Francis said that he had a girlfriend before he became Pope. So, yeah.
That's a beautiful comeback. Thank you so very much. And this kind of energy, we want this to reverberate throughout our groups as we go on from here. So we have had the main presenters. Let me take the opportunity now to recognize some special guests. If our count is right, we have just over 50 participants in this forum, several individuals. I'm sure some of you are local farmers, you have logged in, and I hope that our moderator will create an opportunity for you to participate. We're just about an hour through our 2-hour presentation, and thank you so very much. I would like to give an opportunity then to our special guests to make comments. I want to recognize Mr. Martin Hopwood, and he's from the Cattle Breeders Association. And I also want to recognize Mr. Vincent Wright. He's from the National Fisheries Authority. If you're following the trend, our main speakers got between 5 and 10 minutes. So we're going to have to curtail our special guest comments to 3 minutes. So Mr. Martin Hopwood, would you take 3 minutes and make your comments, please? We would like to arrange to have him unmuted, Mr. Hopwood.
Okay, can we have Dr. Wright instead until Mr. Hopwood is ready?
Oh, sure. So we go over to National Fisheries Authority.
Yes.
Dr. Wright, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Great.
Most time we tend to leave out the fisher folks, which plays a very important role in our GDP of the country. And the theft of agriculture produce, while such theft is almost universal, this term is primarily used in the Caribbean region. And as a result of Praedial larceny, this is practically affecting agriculture development negatively. Now, let me just say something about fisheries. Now, because of environmental factor, our fishing stock have been dwindling in the Caribbean region, especially around the Jamaica coast. And as a result of that, we tend to have a lot of persons going out trying to make a living from the ocean. And in some situation, what has happened is that we have persons going out and invading fish pots, stealing fish pots, going to fish pots, and as a result, they are creating no ends of problems out there on the sea. In addition to that, we tend to have a lot of persons from South and Central America, from the Dominican Republic, often invading our waters and capturing and stealing our fish. As a result of that, it is creating a lot of problems, a lot of challenges where fish is concerned. Just last year, we had a boat in our waters coming all the way from the Dominican Republic with close to $15 million worth of fish products, which include things like conch, lobsters, finfish, and so forth. Because of these persons coming into our waters from Central South America and elsewhere, stealing our products, what has happened is that we had to put a ban on conch. Conch is a product that has a very high value. Also, we have a product that is in great demand in places like China, known as sea cucumber, and our lobsters as well. We are now exporting lobsters to China. we have to put a hold on some of these because of the theft that is going on out there in the sea. So actually what happened is that we need surveillance, we need more marine police and so forth to take care of that, to protect our borders, our shores, because as a result of this, it is affecting the fisher folks negatively. It is also affecting our GDP negatively. So these are very important aspects that we need to take into consideration. We have also developed what is known as fish sanctuary out there, which is costing the government a lot of money on an annual basis. Fish sanctuaries around Jamaica is costing a minimum of between $50 to $100 million per year just to maintain those fish sanctuary so that we can increase the catch of fish. But what has been happening, we have persons who have been going there and destroying some of these fish sanctuary. We have found out that because of these fish sanctuary, we have a significant increase in the amount of fish that are being caught around Jamaica. So these are things that we have to protect. I will not say, oh, we have to protect them, but we have to protect them. If not, we are going to be in serious trouble where fish is concerned. This is a valuable source of protein and it provides jobs for a lot of persons, a whole lot of persons. I just briefly touch on aquaculture because aquaculture is also a very important aspect to us here in Jamaica. What has happened is that because of theft, there has been a decrease in the growth of our aquaculture products. Because to set up an aquaculture venture, it's an high capital venture. It takes a lot of money to set up an aquaculture venture. And because of theft, several fish farmers, if you were to ask fish farmers in Jamaica, I don't think there is one who have not experienced some level of theft. Because of the high level of theft, and it's a high capital product, it has retarded the growth and development in Jamaica. What has happened is that this is one area, it's the fastest growing area in agriculture throughout the world. This area is growing at a rate of about 10% annually in several countries. In Africa, in Europe and elsewhere, United States and so forth. But here in Jamaica, we started out very good, but we have not been moving on very well because of the whole matter of theft. Now, we need to look and see how we can protect what we have. Just quite recently, there's this gentleman who lost a 1 acre pond of fish. They went inside and they stole out everything, which is a lot of money. It's a whole lot of money. And that can throw him off track totally. So we have to be very careful when it comes on to fish and aquaculture product because it is very, very serious. Now, there are some things that we can use. I just mentioned one of them. Well, we have the police around who can tell how to control these things. But I think camera is a very important aspect in the area of aquaculture. I had a friend who was in his bed some time ago, and he got up in the middle of the night to see what was happening on his farm. And when he checked on his farm, he has cameras set up all over. He realized that someone was stealing his fish. So he made an alarm, and the gentleman, well, they hadn't caught him, but he left the product on the spot. I think camera is a very good aspect to use in a number of areas. There are some cameras are relatively cheap and they can be used. Dogs, again, very effective. And the whole business of receipt and so forth, ID, registration of farmers, these are things that ought to be enforced so that we can reduce on the level of theft in the whole business of aquaculture and fisheries. And fisheries is a very serious thing. The fishermen will tell you that out on the sea it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me time to speak. But there are a lot more that need to be said, and there are a lot to be done to protect our borders and to protect our aquaculture sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that beautiful and insightful presentation. You began by saying that sometimes we tend to leave out the fisher folk. You notice that Jesus spent a lot of time with them during his short ministry here on earth. If time allows, I will visit with you along with Sergeant Williams and see how we can continue this meaningful conversation on how to involve our fisher folk and to get more going. On that visit, we will tell you about the farmers, the Beach Watch initiative that we have going. Permit me to recognize Mr. Trevor Bernard. We had a pleasure of meeting him on the weekend. I'm warning you, sir, putting you a notice that we're going to ask you to make comments after Mr. Martin Hopwood. I hope Mr. Hopwood is ready for us now, please. Is Mr. Hopwood ready from the Cattle Breeders Association?
He has to unmute. He has to unmute.
Can we help him to do that? Get a message through to him? If not, we're going to move on until he comes on.
Bishop, did you see Roger Durner here too? Where I think you should recognize him too.
Yes, thank you, Martin. You are indeed a trained person. You have sharp eyes. Mr. Roger Turner, I haven't met him personally, but my team sent through a report. Part of our initiative is to visit farms and to provide what we call security surveys. So my team went there and they sent in a beautiful report. So for our special guest, I want to hear from Mr. Roger Turner. We've heard from Dr. Vincent Wright, and then we want to hear from Mr. Martin Hopwood. I will take either Mr. Roger Turner or Mr. Hopwood, whoever is ready for us now.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm unmuted and videoing.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate, sir. I'm, as your Praedial team would tell you, I'm a man of short words. I thought I'd just cut to the chase. We recognize as farmers the inability to say, don't run or I shoot is no longer allowed. We recognize that the police and our staff are no longer able to chase down the thief and catch him because of the danger to both parties and the fact that the sergeant in the guard room would send both of us to the local hospital for checking for actual bodily harm and charge us both when we arrive at the police station. So the idea of manual violence and gun violence has been taken out of the equation, Deputy Commissioner. So we're left with catching the criminals after the fact. And the only avenue left open to the police and the farmers and the team here today is to catch the person in the vehicle with unlawful possession. And I commend the efforts of the police, who are moving more and more to that method of entrapment. You cannot identify a tomato, you cannot identify a banana, you cannot identify a coconut. So all it can be is unlawful possession. The whole concept of theft of property, whether it's goat meat or cow meat, you cut off the ID tag on the cow, the goat has no brand, you're all left with just unlawful possession. And if all of our efforts go into policing the markets, policing the roadways, we will go a very, very far way in curtailing the movement of illegal farm produce from the farm to the markets. The second avenue open to us, Assistant Superintendent, is tasers. I have been talking about this now for about 2 years in JS meetings, Praedial meetings in Knowledge and Bogwalk, and within the ministry. The tasers that fire a dart 10 or 15 feet will take the violence out of the entrapment of the thief at the point of escape from the farm. We're not asking your expensive, highly trained police officers to sit in a drain or sit beside a fence on the roadside waiting to catch a thief. That is a waste of a good resource. What we need to do is to license the farmers to have tasers within the confines of their farm and the immediate surrounding. They cannot take it anywhere else. Allow him to sit for hours on end outside his onion patch, outside his banana walk, waiting for the thief to come by. Let him fire the taser darts, entrap the thief. You give him 2 handcuffs, one for his ankles and one for his arms, his wrists. And you have, within your Praedial units around Jamaica, a taser recovery unit. That taser recovery unit comes and removes the tasers from the thief, identifies, like you have an accident investigation unit, you have a taser recovery unit to detail what they find at the crime scene. And that way, you empower the farmers. You then end up with an army supporting your police force, sir. And you work closely with them. Those 2 methods will tidy up Praedial larceny. Unlawful possession in vehicles and taser units with darts. We concentrate on those 2 avenues, sir, and we will go a far way for allowing farmers to sell their own food. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Turner, for touching on the legal ramifications and use of force where it comes to farmers. I'm putting Deputy Commissioner Blake on notice, if he's still there, that I'm expecting him to either respond today or soon after. The idea of arming farmers with tasers and so forth. Sounds exciting, and I'm sure that our lawyers will have a field day looking at that. Thank you so very much. And my team says hello to you, and they're looking forward to another visit. We then go to Mr. Hopwood. I am sure he must be ready for us now. Is he? No, we're having difficulty clearing Mr. Hopwood for. Okay, so then let's go to my newly found friend, Mr. Trevor Bernard. Like Deputy Commissioner Blake, it's unfair to say like him because I'm just learning the whole rudiments of farming until you hear from people like the Honorable Minister and from Dr. Omar Thomas that what you're doing is farming food. But I am trying my best within that sphere. But I had a beautiful visit on Saturday from Mr. Trevor Bernard, the president of the Small Ruminant Association, and he brought me quite a lesson on small ruminants, and I hope he'll give me 3 credits for that. It's good to have you, Mr. Bernard, and I'm giving you 3 minutes for your comments, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it was very enlightening to come to your farm, and we had a good discussion. One of the things is that we see eye to eye on a lot of matters, because every time I'm talking and you are talking, we are just agreeing on most things. You have been given 7 vehicles to do your work, and it seemed like you're getting a lot of support. and I am expecting a lot of changes now. We have calls all the time from the farmers, all the time, all the theft, they come into me all the time. Most times it is reported, but the police is overwhelmed. As I said before, they can't address the problems because the police have so much other problems to take care of. And with you at the head of this team, and and meet everyone, and we hope we'll work together to help our country with this Praedial Larceny problems. Thank you.
Sure. That's much shorter than what you brought me through on Saturday, though. You wanted to define what's a small ruminant and all sorts of things about what goats eat and so forth. Well, I'm going to take you up on that another time. Thanks for your
because everyone knows about the small ruminants, and we are the goat and sheep people in Jamaica. And basically, you know, we want recognition. I don't think people only recognize the curry goat, but what goes into this, you know, and what you have to go through with it, you know, people don't understand. And
as we continue the conversation, we're going to get
not just stealing our goats and everything happening on the roadside. It's so easy to steal them, but we can continue.
Thank you very, very much. And then the final of our special guests to comment for 3 minutes is Mr. Martin Upwood. I noticed an image of a lady who came up. I hope she came to give him a bailout. Can we hear you now, sir, please? I think they need to be unmuted. We can see your okay, there you are. Welcome.
Hello. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, ma'am, and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words regarding Praedial Larceny, which is not Praedial. It's not Praedial. It's a very, very serious crime. Praedial Larceny is when a man picks a bunch of bananas or 2 oranges and puts it in a bag and goes and jumps on the back of a donkey and leaves the place. Praedial Larceny, farm theft that we're talking about, is an organized, big organized crime which we have in Jamaica. And unless a stop is put to it, all the talk they're talking about food security and feeding the nation and all that sort of thing, it will never happen. And people talking about we are importing 70% of our goat meat and only 30% is being produced here. It's not that it can't be done, but people take their money and invest in goat production and lose the goats and have to either repay the bank for the loan that they took out, or they've lost their own personal money. I can speak firsthand. I have lost many head of animals over the years from Praedial Larceny, and my cattle are in pastures, and they come in there at night and lasso the cattle, tie them up to a tree and slaughter them. Much less a man that has a cow in a tie in the backyard or on a common on a rope. Him is just a sitting duck. They just have to pull him right there and just haul him up into the back of a pickup and they're gone. And if I didn't have to spend nearly $3 million a year on security on my farm, I would be out of business long ago, because all my pigs and all my cattle have been stolen. I was in bananas maybe up to 10 years ago, and I had people leaving Montego Bay to come up here 40 miles. I live 40 miles from Montego Bay, coming up here and stealing the bananas at night with flashlight and box. And they had there was a gang of workers in the banana field at night. So when a man goes out on his farm at night with a shotgun and he meet up a gang of people stealing his things, he either have to run, or if he don't have police to help him, he's going to have to just leave them to steal his things, because they'll kill him. Because we're talking about an organized business. It's not a man picking a bunch of coconuts or 2 oranges and putting it in the back of a bag, as I said before, and leaving. It's organized business. And I sell cattle to a lot of small farmers, and there is not one small farmer that I do business with who has not lost at least 10% of his herd to Praedial Larceny. And God knows I don't know how they persist, because it's the most demoralizing thing to go out in the morning to look for your cow And all you see is the belly of the cow or the head of the cow and the skin of the cow thrown down and everything gone. Just the other day, we had an incident around here in which a man went to look for his animals down at, nearby to Bracco, down where the small farmers have property down there. And in the broad daylight, a set of men were there stealing 3 of his animals. He had to run. He couldn't face them. Luckily, he was able to get on to the Rio Bueno police. And when they got there, the the thief run away, but at least he was able to get back the beef. He got the beef, but the thief gone. And the police held on to the man's car. And this is broad daylight. This is not in the middle of the night or something. And if a man is not, when you meet up on this is organized crime. This is not a joke business. And unless the police take it seriously and the government take it seriously, all the talk about food security is gone through the wind. I've been around the block several times and I've come up against many situations like this, meetings and meetings and meetings about this, and it's just a talk, pure talk, and just talk of one. And the reason why only 23 cases of Praedial last year have been reported is because the farmers are fed up. They don't want, they can't bother go to the police. When they went to the police, they only wasting their time. They're not getting any results. They only wasting their time, just make up their mind and take the beating. So it's a serious matter, sir, and unless it's approached in a very serious way, we're not going to make any headway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hopwood, for the passion with which you spoke. And for a minute, I wondered if I were in a police reception area getting a complaint. You spoke with such passion and you spoke on behalf of other farmers. This, I assure you, this event this afternoon is not just another talk shop. We are taking careful notes of the points, the action items, and we're going to make sure we follow through on that. We have about 40 minutes left, and we've gone through the structured presentation. I want to ask, with the help of our moderator, if we could open up the lines and the mics so that we can structure some questions and some comments. We're going to have to curtail that to reasonable time so that we can finish off and give some feedbacks before we go. Moderator, would you help us to identify those persons who we wish to take questions or comments from? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sergio, I think you have a question before. Would you like to make your presentation now?
Presentation.
Our question.
I was just wondering what is the purpose of having the anti-Praedial Larceny unit up by the Hope Gardens between the office hours of 8 to 5 when Praedial Larceny happens at night? What purpose do they serve in that way?
Okay.
I can quickly respond that that is just a perception. That is not what happens. You would appreciate that with a national program as this, we have to be housed somewhere. So whilst the office is here, Mr. Clifford Blake pointed out that we have units in all 19 geographic divisions. You will hear from the headquarters team in terms of what's happening, but certainly it is not confined to just Hope Gardens. I want to give credit to those divisions out there. For those of you who are you're following social media, you might have seen the recent incident in which the goat thieves in Upper St. Andrew were apprehended. That was not with the effort of the team from headquarters, but in fact the effort of the team in Stonehill. A week or so ago, Serge Island reported the loss of 17 heads of cattle, most of which were recovered, not with the efforts of a headquarters team, but with a dedicated team from out in St. Thomas. And we have highlights of other divisions who have reported. So it's not quite totally true to say that we're operating with a Hope Road. But thank you for that comment.
Since you can highlight the isolated cases of success, can you put a figure on the amount that is lost or has been lost over the year in terms of Praedial larceny?
No, I cannot. And DCP Blake,
police are clueless then.
DCP Blake alluded to that. If farmers are discouraged in reporting the incident, it is very difficult for us to capture that. Part and parcel of what is coming out of this is for us to build confidence in the farmers to come to the police to report these incidents. And part of what we will do is to be proactive in doing our farm security survey to mitigate against the incidents of Praedial larceny.
Thank you very much, sir. We're going to have a next question from Sharon Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to first commend the organizers of this forum. And I just want to make a statement and ask a question, proceed the statement. As on behalf of the Osamarty Alumni Association, and Osamarty was particularly really an agricultural school that used to maintain their the population at the school. We have several different agricultural, produce, animals, both animal fishery and produce. But my question is, for Praedial larceny, we should educate the youths, encourage the youths from young to get involved in agriculture. And I'm proposing, since Osamarty was one of those schools, or is still a very strong agricultural school, for the Ministry of Agriculture, rather, or the necessary organizations that are involved in agriculture, to use, if they can use Osamarty as a tool to start the agricultural system, get the community, there's a community around Osamarty, to start producing things and show people that, hey, this is agriculture. You can make a living from it. It's not a stigma like, before they used to have this stigma about agriculture, but educate the people and know that they can make something of this for themselves instead of going to, steal other people's product. I have family members from Trelawney that lost their whole crop of yam to Praedial larceny. And as a member of the Osamarty Alumni Association and a PR person, I'm trying to, within the next year, I'm trying to push this for Osamarty, the ministry, to get involved with Osamarty and use Osamarty as an example as a school, because we have the resource there, we have the land to push something like this and to educate the community. And then one other thing is to, before I go, why not use like a co-relation with all the farmers, where the hotels, the restaurants, purchase from a particular organization, where all the small farmers bring their products to this, and the farmers, the hoteliers, and the restaurateurs buy from this. That probably would kind of stop the larceny from people buying products from people who does not produce it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The minister is here. He heard you. I think your comments might be valuable to him. Minister, you want to respond?
I'd just like to say that we take your comments on board. And one of the things that we have to say is that we are actually looking at where the direction in which you're going with Osamarty, where we have the case in Portland, we have Sydney Pagan in St. Elizabeth, we have Nakalba out in Hanover. These are agricultural entities where we are looking to use them as a hub to also have them get produce going to other schools within their area. What we are doing is looking to see if we can ramp up the school gardens where we want to have the children at the primary and high schools learning at a very early age the importance of agriculture. And these school gardens will also be ones whereby the communities, we would be having the organizations in and around, the PMOs, the JS farmers in and around, they would be coming there, and these school gardens would be used as a demonstration plot for the farmers within the area. To expand that, we are also going to be having what we call agroeconomic zones. The first one we are looking at is going to be in St. Elizabeth at Holland, where this agroeconomic zone is one where you have grading, packaging, processing, drying facilities. And so you have the grade A going to the hotel and export market, the grade B produce going to the local market, and the grade C would be processed, and that would be going into the value chain. One of the main areas we are looking at is the school feeding program, where we would be having the juice. You know that there are a lot of fruits at this stage being produced. We would be having fruit juice going into the breakfast program, whereby we want to cut out the bag juice. And this is part and parcel of what we are looking at. And the agroeconomic zone would be one where we would be having the hub, where the hoteliers, the wholesalers, the retailers would be able to come and buy their produce there. Right there, it doesn't matter what the farmer produces, everything would be taken off of his farm, and he would be getting a bigger profit. First, agroeconomic zone in St. Elizabeth, the next one in Trelawney, and the third one we want to look at is having it in St. Thomas. So we are structuring the agricultural system, and this is where we intend to go, by putting in place a proper structure where we go from farm straight to the value chain and getting all the produce up from the farm.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that very structured response to the question. And thank you, listener, for raising those comments. Just before I go back to the moderator who will indicate our next question, we have someone sending us a question from Facebook asking whether or not we're contemplating the appointment of special district constables. I want to piggyback on what Minister said earlier, the appointment of 800 agricultural aides, particularly to support the RADA field officers. From the policing perspective, we are seriously contemplating the appointment of agricultural wardens. We have some little legislative tying up to do for that, but we will appoint special district constables to add value to the policing efforts, and that is going to be in the short term. So rest assured that we have that on the agenda. Over to you, moderator. Right. Next question.
Thank you, sir. So we have Tommy, but before Tommy speaks, we have a Mr. Terry Bascom. He's a permanent secretary from Barbados. Terry, are you still on the line? Terry was given said that the problem of Praedial Larceny is also very much big in Barbados, and he was looking at the examples in Jamaica. So I'm not sure if Terry is still on the line or his chief agricultural officer. If not, we're gonna move on to Tommy.
Okay, hello?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, sorry. In actuality, my name is Michael Allen. Tommy is my pet name. We all are siblings on this a couple of days ago, and I forgot to change it. I'm calling in from Canada. Left Jamaica when I was young. I've also been very instrumental in Canada in setting up organic greenhouse operations. And I decided years ago that I was going to return home. So we're in the process of doing that right now, working with JAMPRO to do so. This Praedial larceny issue is an issue that is important to us, and it's important to Jamaica for the simple reason that you have investors who are coming back to Jamaica, and they're coming back to Jamaica to do things. This will scare them. So in dealing with my investors, I have to put up and ensure a lot of high-tech security systems to more or less help them not feel so afraid. So it is a very important thing to address if we are going to be seeking foreign investment back into Jamaica. And also the fact that when you have returnees like myself who do want to come home, been in Canada long enough, it's getting cold the older you get, to address some of these things. Now, there's a couple of things that I've heard mentioned before already. One of the things that I saw here, and I had posted it on there in regards to dealing with what we would call Johns here. And, what the United States and Canada has done in the past is the police have made very aggressive inroads into prostitution being a big thing in the US and Canada. And one of the things that they started doing is that they stopped targeting the prostitutes, right? Because you arrest a prostitute, let her back out, she goes back and she does everything else. But at the end of the day, they call them the John, are the ones who are actually purchasing the services. And I think there is no one, I heard, multiple solutions, and everybody is more or less emphasizing the one solution that they think is the best solution for it. But I don't think there's any single solution because there's so much multifaceted aspect of this problem. I think what we need to do is to take a strong look at all the aspects and put them together and implement them all at the same time. So it basically becomes a scattergun, shotgun, where it's just spreading out and literally hitting everything. One of the things that, is I know in Jamaica, when you're a thief, it's a big deal, and to be even labeled as a thief. And so I think one of the things that they did with the police was they would go after the Johns, the ones who were buying the service of the prostitutes. And they would put them up and post their faces, their pictures, their names online on a particular site. Now, it does incredible damage to people, especially men who are married and men who are in affluent businesses and everything else like that. It curtailed a lot of people from even considering, paying for prostitutes and everything else like that because of the social shaming. And I think that's one of the things that we need to start doing in this industry is to actually start public shaming. I'm sure an individual having his picture up and his name up and not so much his address, because you don't want a vigilante justice, but the area or whatever it is that, he's not going to want to show his face too much publicly or want to risk that point of being caught, being prosecuted, and then having his pictures and everything posted up as such. So that's where the target for the Johns. Businesses themselves, okay, and it's the same thing here when you're in possession of stolen property is where I think another very strong, especially to the hotels or restaurants or businesses where you suspend or you revoke their license after a certain amount of times that you revoke their license or you suspend their business. You start suspending a person's business because they're taking stolen property. I will guarantee you that they will be not considering, okay, they taking products and risking their business being closed down for the sake of saving a few pennies. So that's another point that I think that we need to address. Now, I know, and it is mentioned already in regards to the purchasing of vehicles and so forth like that. We as the farmers, and I put myself as we because it's a matter of time before I'm back in Jamaica to do all this, is that we have to look at and say and consider what we're losing as the farmers, and consider putting together whether it's a registration, a fee, or whether it's where all the farmers, based on whatever their income is, to a certain percentage of money towards servicing the vehicles, increasing the police force, increasing the vehicles, increasing everything around you. And I think overall, if we did that collectively, some of us, it'll reduce our security costs. But what I'm going to be doing is a lot of security costs it's going to cost. And, you know, and it's not to say that I don't have any faith in the police, but it's because the lack of ability, I mean, a lack of resources or the lack of personnel is forcing me to put, you know, a lot in my security. And one of the gentlemen earlier said that they had to spend how many, $3 million in security, right? And still getting stolen from. So I think collectively, if we were able to do that, we'll be able to put together, you know, whether that would have to be a committee that's put together for that, where all the farms will pay a certain amount of money in to increase. And then in itself, they'll actually save money. So what they'll put in compared to what they're going to save in loss will be more, you know, better for everybody as a farmer. So those are the three things that I think from, you know, and I'm sitting and looking at it from the outside because that's not an issue that we have here in Canada, but it is an issue for me coming home, you know, and especially at the scope in which we're planning, what we're planning to do. So definitely something to eat.
Thank you so much for those comments. Moderator, we're 20 minutes to the hour.
All right. So we are going to ask that the question be short. We're going to have a next question from Elizabeth Johnson. Dr. Johnson is the ECA's representative to Jamaica. Dr. Johnson?
Good afternoon, moderator. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity to simply make a couple of comments or ask some questions. Is it possible to raise, to simply eliminate Praedial larceny? Because it sounds like it is not a big crime. So I think, is it possible to make Praedial larceny actually into 2 felonies, grand theft and also reckless endangerment of public health? Because if something is stolen, a crop is stolen right after it's sprayed, which is most times when agricultural produce is actually taken, is when the farmer is observing the time out of the field. This should not be in the market. This should not be eaten. And it does represent a public health risk. And that charge for reckless endangerment to public health should be both for the person who stole the goods and the person who is in possession of the goods. And these should be treated as felonies and you know, for the highest possible penalties. As much as any business, no business can survive with a constant loss of 20 to 30%, which is what Praedial larceny actually is costing farmers. So is it possible to actually look at it as a more serious crime? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson, for your comments. I have taken note of that. What I'd like to do, moderator, I'd like to go back to our main presenters, give them a minute each, just to respond if any comments or questions.
1 minute. Before you move to the next, I'm just going to ask Dr. Robin from Cardi. He wants to make a comment as well.
Beautiful. I hear.
Thank you, moderator. Most of what I was going to say has been said by the presenters before me, but I want to say, and I've worked around the region, and Praedial larceny is a deterrent to farmers and to young farmers also. The consumers, restaurateurs, hoteliers who buy the products are not even buying the products at cost. They're buying it at a cheaper price. And that is the enticement for them to buy the commodity from the non-farmer or the thieves. And I think there should be a focus on the restaurateurs, the hoteliers, the consumers who buy the products. That's where we should focus on putting the penalties. The other thing I know, and I'm assuming that in Jamaica, all vendors of agricultural produce have a license. And I mean, most of the islands, it's probably not enforced, but vendors of agricultural produce, whether they're street side vendors in the parish markets, coronation markets, everybody should have a vendor's license. If you don't have a license, you're picked up. And I think if you take it from the vendors and the people who sell the produce and the people who buy the produce, you will probably be able to stem the flow of the actual Praedial larceny on the farm, because I think at the farm level, it is an extremely difficult thing to solve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate those comments and I've taken notes. We are in the last 15 minutes of our meeting, and I want to appreciate the involvement and comments of those who have, and even those who have just listened. We value your being here. In wrapping this up, what I'll do is go back to our main presenters, giving them some time, a minute or so, to just comment whether or not they want to clarify something they heard or further expand on their comments. But I'll do this in the reverse order for our main presenters, giving our minister the last word on that. And then together with my team, I'll just share with you some of the action items we're going to take out of this. So we'll start with Martin first. But Martin, I heard the presenter from Canada, Mr. Allen, suggesting that they want to come together as farmers to give to the police. Deputy Commissioner Blake has made it difficult, if not impossible, for police to receive any gifts or tokens or anything. So may I suggest you send it to Honorable Minister Hutchinson, because there's no restriction on me collecting directly from him. Thank you for that. Martin, we're back to you. You have a minute just to give us your closing comments. We'll take it in reverse order. Martin, then Deputy Commissioner Blake, then Peter Thompson, then Mr. Fulton, and then we'll close off that section with the Honorable Minister, and then we'll do our summary. Martin, please.
Yes, thank you again. As I say, I just can strengthen again the fact that it has shown in this session right now that really and truly that the people who are directly involved in farming or have a farming background like DCP Blake, they are the ones who really understand the situation. Now, those ones who don't really fully understand what's happening, I think they are always welcome to go out and really see the situation. But again, you know, listening to all of it, and I really saying that we need young people to go into farming, and whoever was listening to this conversation today, I think we need to make farming exciting. We need to look into the future. You know, Miss Elizabeth Johnson from IICA, I want the young champion farmer with the institution, and they are a fantastic organization working together with young farmers. And I'm saying it again, all of us need to get together to really get this situation fixed, and agricultural insurance is one of it, and we work together, and I'm sure we can lead the way, but we need to make farming exciting. That's the only way. Otherwise we fall asleep, and next 20 years from now we have only old people farming, and that's going to be a challenge.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much for your commitment and your endorsement and your valuable words of encouragement. We then go to Deputy Commissioner Blake, the person who heads up the strategic operations portfolio. The only other person in the JCF who can take more copious notes than I take is Deputy Commissioner Blake. And I'm sure that by tomorrow he's going to want to hear from me what are the action items coming out of this engagement today. I yield to DCP Blake for his final comments.
Mr. Chairman, I must commend yourself and the minister for the new energy and a new passion which we have taken to the fight against Praedial larceny, and not to confine it to the agricultural crops. But as Dr. Wright said, look at aquaculture, look at our marine, our whole livestock, the whole totality of the agricultural industry. And speaking from a Jamaica Constabulary Forces standpoint, I just want to commit the organization's fight against Praedial Larceny, and not only to commit also, but to expand and to make sure that our officers, by virtue of training, education, and commitment, that we renew our energy in the fight against the Praedial Larceny. But it was mentioned earlier on that the judiciary, the role that they have to play, and I have no doubt that the minister and the team, ACP Welch, will also include the judiciary, because as stakeholders, they have a critical role to play in the whole fight against Praedial Larceny. So in closing, I want to commend the team again for not only this virtual meeting, but for the actual role that they are playing on a day-to-day basis. And certainly, you have my support and my commitment, and that of the Commissioner.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Blake. We appreciate this, sir, and we look forward to coming to discuss with you the action items coming out of this. Thanks again, sir. Mr. Peter Thompson from RADA, you have a minute to share with us your final comments.
Well, my final comments really is that the police should target the end users. I think one way of putting the dent into the Praedial Larceny system is target the end users and to start to prosecute them when they cannot clearly demonstrate where they get the produce from. While we will be working with the farmers and the farmers groups out there in the community, the police, while acknowledging their work with us, should be out there also in the marketplace. And Mr. Williams, as you alluded to earlier, would stop all the market trucks coming into the Coronation and other markets across Jamaica. And that would be sending a signal to the Praedial Larcenies that if you are not a producer, then you cannot sell something. And it's something that we need. So while we employ the technology with the drone, with the apps that we are developing, a combination of all the approaches should be used. So there is no one single solution to the Praedial Larceny issue. A combination of strategies that have to put together as a package and to employ so that we can curtail this monster.
Thank you very much, Sir Thompson, for those kind words. In the very first meeting I had with the minister when I came on board, he spoke about the need for us to go out there and to investigate. That is to say, have a conversation with the end users and let them tell us what is the source of their produce. This has been repeated by several persons, and it's going to be given priority by us. Mr. Fulton, you have a minute to share your final comments.
Yes, I think we need a massive education camp credit course. You can't graduate unless you do it. On morality, abuse of women, discrimination, theft, let's package that for our people. And of course, to bring back civics as a subject in all our school system to teach the ills that are now plaguing our country from all over. Praedial Larceny is just one of them. And we need to start to teach it in philosophy and morality and begin to rebuild this country from an educational standpoint. That's my few comments.
And I thank you, Mr. Fulton, for your very valuable comments, and especially on the matter of education. We're going to hear then from Minister Hutchinson, and I'm not introducing him. All I'm letting you know is that this matter of anti-Praedial Larceny initiative is top on his agenda. I have an opportunity, or my team rather, has an opportunity to meet with him on Monday mornings, not on Wednesdays and Fridays, but on Monday mornings, to say to him what are our achievements for the past week and what are our plans for the week going forward. And believe me, he is a stickler for details, and we better come good. Minister, what are your final comments?
My final comment now is that I strongly believe that for us to move forward in agriculture, the agriculture sector has to be structured. And by that I mean that the base of this structure is the farmers' organization. The farmers within the districts, they know everybody who is actually doing any sort of agricultural enterprise. And when you have an organization there and you have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, they know the persons and their who are the farmers. They know also the persons within the area who is the cattle thief, who is the goat thief, who is the mango thief. And if you have them working along with, as I have suggested, the police, who I call the police farmers group, I feel they will have more confidence in relating to the police who the thieves are, because somebody from an area is not going to go to another area to steal because they don't know who is there. They are from within the same area. And this structure goes through where the farmers now would carry their produce to what I have said is an agroeconomic zone. All produce from the farmers would go to this hub where it is graded, packaged, processed. Anybody who wants to buy any produce, that is the hotels, wholesalers, retailers, would be getting it from this hub agroeconomic zone. You then have investigators, and these investigators investigate all end users, whether it is persons who are at the market, whether it's retailers, wholesalers, the jerk pork man who has his pig out there on a Friday. You go and you say, where have you got this? They must then present an invoice or a receipt. And why I say an invoice and not a receipt is that most persons who grow pig now, they trust the pig to whoever buys it. And when they trust it, it is one where you have to give them an invoice. If you give them a receipt, and it has happened already many times, where you have an unscrupulous person who comes and he says, the farmer comes and says, I want my money. The person says, see here, I've got a receipt from you. I'm giving you the receipt. That means that you have transferred money. And with that, he's left without anything. So it has to be a structured thing where all produce end up at an end user. And so you go and investigate all the end users. And with this, I think this would help in curbing the criminals that are out there, the thieves that are out there. But we would like to see a structure put in place for the agricultural sector, for the marketing of produce, and also for making sure that the farmers will get their best price for their produce.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We really appreciate that. As a preacher, I should have been saying in closing, so you know that we're getting to the wire. We're out of time, but I'd like to summarize in this way. Firstly, I'd like to introduce the team here at MICAF. Sergeant Williams doesn't like people to see his face, but if you turn the camera around, this is Sergeant, remove your mask, no? Okay, so this is Sergeant Williams, the energy behind it, and to his right is Miss Paul. They are just great people to be with. I'd like to share with you an email address that you can use to continue the conversation. It's plpu@mycaf.gov.jm. That's plpu@mycaf.gov.jm. before I ask our moderator to just give us his final comments, here's how I have summarized what we're doing today. The minister began by just sharing with us the 5 headings under which the strategies are being rolled out. 1, public education. So all the comments that you have given to us, we're going to pick up the actionable items that we can put under the public education trust. He also spoke about traceability, and several persons in your comments and your contributions spoke to the need for activities geared towards that. Then we had presentations about legislative support. Minister indicated that that's an ongoing effort, and pretty soon we're going to be having our documents before the cabinet and onwards. So the action items that resemble that heading, we're going to put under that. Capacity building is another area that the minister highlighted, and the different presenters spoke to elements of that, and we're going to categorize it under that. What we'll do is just create a matrix and put the action items under that, and who will take the lead. And with that, you'll understand the need for us to take the multi-sectorial approach. There are some things that the police will take the lead on. There's some things that MICAF will take the lead on, as the case may be. And that will qualify under the minister's 5th area, which is the multi-sectorial approach. I thoroughly enjoyed this interaction. Thanks to all the presenters. Thanks to the logistics and technical support, Mr. Patrick Maitland, the moderator. Thank you so much, and I'm going to hand over to him now. The coordination and logistics, Calicia Hall and Sergeant Bruce of the Praedial Larceny Prevention Unit. Please put prevention under it. Don't just put Praedial Larceny. You might misunderstand what they do. MICAF staff for hosting us today. Thank you very much for having us. JIS and social media streaming, Facebook, YouTube, Andre Allen and Rupert Pitter. Thank you so very much. We should do this again. Sir Maitland, I want to hand over to you for closing.
I have very little said next. Now, it was really a great session. And from the feedback we are getting here, people are very pleased with the outcome, and we're looking forward to the action now. I'm confident that this is a time that something will be done to get Praedial Larceny under control. And so let me also thank the team for the work to put this session together. And Mr. Chairman, Minister, the entire Praedial Larceny unit. It was a great effort, and we're looking forward to some real action in the next few weeks to come. And let's say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.